Here we go. The Woman in the Windows is a new Netflix original for director Joe Wright, who directed the 2015 version of Pan, the 2005 version of Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, as well as a 2011 movie starring Saoirse Ronan named Hannah that I really enjoyed. Based on a novel by A.J. Finn and also written by Tracy Letts, who wrote the 2006 movie Bug that somehow made Ashley Judd unappealing. Good fucking job there. This stars Amy Adams as an agoraphobic named Anna. All the A's in the goddamn alphabet. I think this movie needed AA and AAA if you know what I mean. But she basically, if you don't know what agoraphobic is, she's confined to her apartment. She can't leave. She has a condition where she just can't fucking leave. She goes basically nuts and everything. She is unsettled by being outside. So she has a routine where she's adjusting to this new life. She gets groceries delivered, meds delivered. She sees her therapist a couple times a week, and her therapist is trying to help her come to grips with how she's dealing with, her recent past, and that's found out, a little bit later, even though if you've seen even one goddamn movie or breathed oxygen outside more than one time, you can figure out where this movie is going. She's basically trying to come to grips with all this stuff, and there's a tenant that lives downstairs by the name of David, who kind of reminded me of Adam Hangman Page. That's for all my wrestling friends out there that happen to be watching this. If you've seen the movie, you will know. And she also has a Persian cat named Punch. And I love Persian cats. I had a Persian cat. The Persian cat steals the goddamn show every time it's on screen, as cats are known to do. And the cat doesn't even have to say anything outside of the occasional meow and then the occasional purr. And basically, when the cat is the most fleshed out character in your movie, you have problems. This also has Gary Oldman in the cast. It has Julianne Moore. I would, and you would too. It also has Jennifer Jason Leigh, as well as many others. Has Fred Heisinger, I hope I pronounced that right, as boy Ethan. And basically, Anna is a child psychologist, but she's an agoraphobic, so naturally she's trying to come to grips with all this stuff. And then she's got her routine down, stuff like that. She does talk to David because he lives in the basement. And they have a bit of a weird relationship, so to speak. And she, through a series of events, a family moves in the Russells, and she meets Jane Russell, played by Julianne Moore, because once again, I would and you would too, and also their son, and also her son Ethan. And through a few events and everything, stuff starts to happen, and Anna is convinced that some violent act took place across the street through, witnessing it through her camera and everything, and witnessing it by looking out the window. Not the rear window, because we don't want to get sued by Alfred Hitchcock's estate. But yeah, it basically is rear window for suckers. And I'm just going to say right now that from there, this movie descends into not knowing what it wants to be, trying to go into a bunch of different directions, and then settling on a plot that really isn't all that interesting. And this movie managed to nullify the talents of Amy Adams, Julianne Moore, and especially Gary Oldman. It managed to nullify the talents of the great Gary Oldman. That is a talent that you don't want to fucking have. And Joe Wright has proven himself to be at least a decent director. I did enjoy Hannah. I've enjoyed some of the other stuff he's done. I don't mind slow burn, psychological horror movies and stuff like that. And Amy Adams is a terrific actress. She was great in Arrival. She's been great in other stuff. And there's a good cast and a good way to do this stuff, but no, they basically just rely on a whole bunch of cliche tropes. And they drag this motherfucker out. It's like 95 minutes, and it feels like it's about 2.5 hours. And that's not a good thing. This movie is agonizing to get through. And that's really what I didn't want out of a movie like this. And I was very, very disappointed. Basically, she, is convinced things are going one way, but no, the cops and everybody are like, no, this is not how this thing's going. Obviously, since it's not in the 1950s, they had to pump things up from how it was done in Rear Window, but Rear Window was done by Alfred Hitchcock, who is a man that certainly had his issues with how he dealt with the leading ladies behind the scenes, but was a fan-fucking-tastic director. So you gotta kind of, keep those two things in mind. But he understood how to make a movie with life and energy and all this stuff, and dread, and this just absolute feeling of dread. And what does this movie have? It has nothing. It really doesn't have anything. It has a plot that tries to put some red herrings out and everything, and oh no, it's this, oh no, it's this, and oh no, it's something really simple that's really stupid that anybody with a goddamn lick of sense could have figured out about, I don't know, when they first saw the goddamn character that was responsible for all this shit. So yeah, nothing really gets accomplished. Fortunately, and I will say this without, before I get into spoilers, the cat doesn't die, because if the cat had died, I would have been even harsher on the goddamn movie. But yeah, Amy Adams does her best. Everybody else does their best, but my God, it's like she's the main star, which is fine. But when you have this little material to work with, because it's from the same guy who wrote Bug, which is an absolute piece of shit goddamn movie, and the fact that that movie was even fucking made was embarrassing. It was one of the worst horror movies. One of the worst movies I've seen that had any kind of budget put behind it. Fucking ridiculous. Everybody just, I don't really even know how to describe how they play their characters, because they're trying to do something with a script that's about that thin, and it doesn't really ultimately work. And when they eventually arrive at the conclusion, you're like, okay, this happened, this character came to grips with this, and this happened, and this stuff, and oh, this, this thing that was referenced earlier, that came into play, pretends to be fucking shocked. There isn't a whole lot to this movie. It's not very atmospheric, it's not very interesting, and the acting is fine for what it is, but ultimately it's basically just, it's shit. It's pretty much boring shit. It's agonizing to get through. So, yeah, I would love to know what you guys have to say in the comments, but I am going to get into spoilers right here. These spoilers will not take very long. So, yeah, spoilers, and spoilers. If you're still watching here and you say I didn't warn you about spoilers, you did not see me do the weird pantomime shit. Okay, so Anna, the agoraphobic, Amy Adams, sounds like it should be some kind of weird comic strip, meets Jane Russell, Julianne Moore's character, has fun with her and everything. And she says, well, you don't really know. I changed the subject on you. You don't really know what you're dealing with. Oh, no, all this. This is after she had met Ethan, who is kind of weird and everything. He says, I like cats' tongues, and but he's allergic to cats. Or is he? Maybe he isn't. Maybe he is. Through a little bit, she kind of develops a bit of a bond with Ethan, because she's a child psychologist and she feels there is something going on here. Because Jane Russell eventually gets dispatched, Julianne Moore gets killed, and she sees this happen, but she doesn't take pictures of it, so the cops don't necessarily believe her. And also, she's got this past where she's hearing her husband's and daughter's voices, but we don't see them. Well, geez, if she's being haunted by this, she's on all this medication, she's drinking a whole lot, I wonder what happened. She was driving one winter night, and she was arguing with her husband. She went to reach for her phone that fell down, and crashed into a bunch of trees, and basically, she was the only one to survive. So no wonder it haunts her. And then Ethan's all crying and upset because, I can't tell you what happened, I can't tell you what happened. And then Gary Oldman's, the father character, Alistair Russell, slaps him and basically says, you stay away from my son, man. Gary Oldman was so fucking wasted in this. I think everybody in the movie had to be fucking wasted, not to Super Mario Brothers levels, because Jesus fucking Christ, that movie was shit. But she eventually does go across the street to try to get to Jane, but, she can't get there. Because, she's an agoraphobic. She doesn't handle it well. She's accused of lying and spying, and if I'm lying, I'm flying, and my feet ain't left the ground. And she meets a different Jane, Jennifer Jason Leigh. Jameson Leigh, if you will. Well, I had to try hard for that. She researches who is Alistair Russell. Who is this Pam Nevin? Why in the world did Alistair suddenly move? What's going on? Oh, it turns out that Ethan was doing all this stuff, and that Ethan was actually killing people because he's a psycho. That's pretty much it right there. Also, it turns out all that stuff about that car wreck, she comes to grips with that, and she's going to try to end her life, and she puts out a video that may or may not have been seen by people. It was only on her phone, but some people saw it. And how did Ethan see it? Oh, it turns out Ethan's been living in her house, despite the fact that there was no evidence of this. This movie just started hucking shit at the wall to see what stuck, and it didn't really work. It did not really work at all. Yeah, the cops really didn't believe her, and it turns out the cops should have fucking believed her, because then we get the flashback, and then we get all this stuff, and then she talks to her therapist. We need 3 sessions a week because you were making this stuff up, and I want to help you and everything, but you got to be straight with me. And then she's gonna try to end her last will and testament and stuff like that. And then it turns out, oh no, it was this David, this guy's been living in the basement, has his own past about having parole issues, and he slept with Jane Russell, Julianne Moore's character. Lucky. I envy him. And it turns out, he's or she was Ethan's birth mother. She took off and she had her own past and everything, and then she tried to come back, and the family's been trying to get away from her, and she finally found them, and then she got killed because of that. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just that Ethan's a fucking psychopath and tries to kill Anna, but Anna manages to get him on the roof. She gets a frickin', like the rake through, little like, small rake that you use for yards, like right in her cheek, which was something. Because the movie realized, shit, we need to have some kind of violence because David's been dispatched, and let's have Amy Adams take a rake in the cheek. And then they go onto this glass roof that had been leaking, and she pushes him on it and then jumps off of it just in time for Ethan to fall and crash, and that's pretty much it. She's in the hospital, and the detective woman that didn't really believe Anna has her cat and basically, is taking care of her cat because who wouldn't want to take care of an adorable Persian cat? And basically, the cop apologizes for the misunderstanding. 9 months later, she's moving on up to a big town in the east side, I guess is how that saying goes. Anyway, she takes the cat with her. Good. I would have actually rather followed the cat around for the entire goddamn movie. Yeah, this plot's kind of all over the place, and there really isn't a whole lot to it. And then it tries to be so many things that it's not. By the time it focuses on being something, you don't really care. And it's really sad given the talent involved. And it gets an F. It gets an absolute F because this movie, I guess it was professionally shot, but it just wasn't very interesting. And the whole thing of Ethan's like, oh, I'm a killer and I'm this kind of stuff and everything. This guy doesn't even look like he'd kill a bug without, struggling to do it. I guess it's always the ones you least suspect. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.